Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, and worship unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Chakodash. Alright, give me 1 second. Alright, so I'm once again, Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations unto Akim. This lesson will be entitled Combating Candida, and I'm going to get exactly what Candida is first, and then we're going to go through some bullet points. Alright, so candidiasis. Alright, candidiasis is a yeast infection that occurs when a type of yeast called Candida albicans, albicans grows out of control. And this often can take place in the summertime, where it's very hot outside. Somebody who works in the car or sits in the car quite often and doesn't have not moving a lot and is compact and not getting ventilation. Which the first point I'm going to bring forth is speaking on ventilation, but it can be transferred from sexual intercourse as well. It can be caused by diet. So it's different things that can cause candida. We're going to get more in detail, but let me read this information. And by the way, this is from myclevelandclinic.org. All right, it says candidiasis is a yeast infection that occurs when a type of yeast called Candida albicans grows out of control. It commonly affects your mouth, skin, and vagina. All right, and which it can affect a man's genitals as well, or the genital area. It says, but it's more prevalent among women. All right. Candidiasis isn't a serious infection, but you still want to seek treatment right away. So I'm going to skip down. I wouldn't suggest, as they're going to suggest, antifungal medications, because the thing about those antibiotics, typically what that's going to be in a pharmaceutical setting, it might neutralize the candida, yes, but it's going to weaken your actual immune system, your actual microbiome, and it's going to be more difficult to combat it in the future event of having it, rather than dealing with sustainable ways of dealing with it and even preventing it from coming about. So that's more so what I'm going to focus on. Let me see if there's any. Yeah, all right. So going down, it says normally healthy bacteria on your body prevents yeast overgrowth. Imagine you have a 2-armed scale with healthy bacteria on one side and yeast on the other. The scale stays balanced until something disrupts it, like certain medical conditions, stress. So stress is a big one. Like, that's why it's important to manage your stress, manage your sleep, because it affects your body and your body's ability to balance and fight off infections and things of that nature. It says unhealthy eating patterns, right? So I'll go ahead and jump into that. Because I was going to speak on, we're going to bullet point it. It's already bullet point in my notes, but processed foods, high sugar foods, especially processed sugar, alcohol, which alcohol converts into sugars and to glucose in the body, high amounts of alcohol, eating sugary sweets and things of that nature that can cause candida overgrowth in the body. That's what feeds candida. The bacteria candida it feeds off of sugars. So when you're consuming an excess amount of sugar, it's going to cause overgrowth, or it can cause overgrowth, which can, with yeast infection, it can affect your mood. That's why a lot of times you'll see women, they have demons, and the man can have demons too, but a woman, they can get yeast infections more often, right? They can have demons on them and be acting wicked. That could be also considering, you have to consider that she can have a yeast infection. That stuff can affect how people conduct themselves. Unhealthy eating patterns, weakened immune system, right? Because your immune system, your microbiome, which is in your digestive tract, your digestive system. You also have a microbiome in your mouth, but the point being, it's if it's compromised, or if you have a weak immune system, if you're unhealthy, it's going to allow Candida to grow more fluidly. Let's see, candidiasis causes discomfort, itching, and irritation until you find treatment, but it isn't a major threat to your overall health. Like any other infection, you should treat it right away to relieve symptoms. Left untreated, severe infections could spread to other parts of your body, including blood, heart, and brain. So you don't want Candida in your brain. You don't want it in your blood. You don't want it in your heart. So, address it accordingly. So the first bullet point is ventilation. So a way to prevent and combat Candida infection when it occurs is having proper ventilation. It starts with your clothes. If you got it, especially in the summer times, I would suggest making sure you're wearing loose clothes. I would never suggest for anybody to wear tight clothes, like tight pants. Those tight pants, and like women shouldn't be wearing tight pants either. Your body needs to breathe. If you do have a yeast infection, I would suggest not wearing underwear. Even in the summertime, depending on your job occupation, you might not want to wear them anyway. You might just want to wear your pants. Because that's going to cause more compression, less ventilation, and more moisture, which is going to be an environment for the Candida to grow and flourish. I would suggest not wearing underwear in that type of situation. And even just by not wearing, especially in the summertime, by not, like I said, depending on your occupation and whatnot, by not wearing underwear, it can help even prevent that from occurring. But taking consideration, I'm going to skip to the next point. Or likewise, I was going to mention before I skip, I don't want to finish ventilation without missing some points. Also, like when you're sleeping, if you do have a situation where you have an infection, I would sleep, naked essentially, so you can have proper ventilation. Sleep without covers on you if you need to, the fan on. All right, so that stuff won't grow, and moisture won't, cause it to grow. All right. Now, to add on to that, I'll add fabric, which is a couple points down. Fabric, especially if you're not wearing underwear, you want to make sure your clothes are breathable. Regardless, I would suggest having your clothes breathable. And if you can, natural, not synthetic clothing, not nylon, polyester, especially if that stuff is going to be directly on your rod, or the woman's, the vagina. So wearing, 100% cotton, 100% linen, 100% hemp, if you can, wearing those type of fabrics, I believe would be beneficial. All right. All right, so sugar consumption. So as I said before, Candida is, survives off of sugars. So essentially Candida has to be starved out. It has to you have to put a siege on the environment, which that's why I say having proper ventilation, so on and so forth, and also its diet. The Candida survives on sugars. That's what feeds the infection or the yeast essentially. Um, Also, if you do have a Candida infection, I will go low carb, extremely low carb. And when I say low carb, things such as not eating heavy carbs, so like potatoes and um, you know, pasta, things of that nature. I would abstain from. And you can look up more information on a proper, you know, diet when dealing with a yeast infection. I'm just giving you some talking, essentially some data, some small data points. You can go to chat or whatnot to, just to help start you off, and you can do your own research and you can talk to, your own, clinician or whatnot, and, your physician, so on and so forth. Um, let's see. Ointment remedy. So there can be topical ointment used outside, never inside, especially for a woman. A woman never want to put anything inside of her vagina. And the Candida is outside. It's not inside, you know. So, um, you know, and also with the man, your testicles, the crevices where your crevices where they don't it might maintain more moisture, your rod, whatever, you get what I'm saying. All of that essentially it can have Candida growth. So topical ointment that you can use is olive oil, and and listen to what I'm saying. Olive oil, or you can use any type of base oil, natural, plant-based oil, coconut oil, whatever. And one drop, listen to what I'm saying, one drop of oregano essential oil. Test it out on your another part of your body possibly first. I would put like a palm full of olive oil to one drop of oregano oil. One drop. Oregano oil is stronger than regular essential oil. You don't want to irritate yourself or burn yourself. So literally one drop, you can apply that throughout your body, out on outer parts of your body, in the area where the infection is, or to even to just have maintenance as well to prevent infections from coming, Candida overgrowth. So that's a topical remedy that you can do. If you do have a Candida infection, I would do that daily. After you get out the shower, apply that ointment on. Supplementation. All right. So there are different supplements that you can take for dealing with Candida. I personally would suggest oregano tincture or oregano capsules, oregano extract, and also Lapacho bark, otherwise known as Paul d'Arco, is great for dealing with yeast infections. Traditionally, Lapacho bark was combined with the plant yerba mate in South America, I believe in Brazil and Peru, if I'm not mistaken. They combine these two herbs together, and there's a synergistic effect in dealing with it. It's really an abundance of benefits that can come from taking these two herbs together. But just speaking on Candida infection, that's another option. So you could get these two herbs and make you a big jug of tea, and you can drink tea every day. 3 to 4 cups of tea every day. You know, you're gonna have to make fresh tea every 2 to 3 days though, because tea will go bad unless you freeze some. But or you can make a tincture, or you can buy a lapacho bark tincture, or you can just buy the lapacho bark, or you could buy lapacho bark and yerba mate tincture and take them together. So, yep. I do hope that was edifying. Giving all praise to Yahweh Shai, Shalom, and keep the faith.